All right, we're live, and we have the illustrious Manny Grossman to keep us filled in with a case that's 40 years old, but keeps
45,
on giving.
45.
Keeps on giving. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Eric. How you doing?
All right. Oh, we got a chat going on here. Hey, how's
Oh, all
everybody
right.
doing? Got 50 people here.
Oh,
Awesome.
wow. Great.
Okay, so what are we going to cover today? I know that there's a lot here, so I can't really do a lot preamble. I think you got
Well,
57 pages or something.
it's all right. I got your back, Eric. So yeah, well, the last time we spoke was about what, 2 months ago now, roughly.
Yes.
And it just never stops. 2 months ago was a major breakthrough in what I call the origin story of Son of Sam. We discovered this family called the Nettos, and they weren't unknown to the Son of Sam world. In fact, Maury Terry had written about their story in 1977, 78, 79, roughly. But he got the story wrong. And we discovered it 40 something odd years later. And it really changed the whole nature of the case. It turned it from this case where people thought it was some international cult, nationwide conspiracy involving Charles Manson, into something much more.
Everybody,
Yeah,
everybody. It kind of,
everybody. Right. Exactly.
the scope and scale just was intense.
Exactly. And of course, my question was, because I believed that stuff for many years. I was one of the most ultimate Maury Terry fans there was going into this series. How do you keep that many people quiet? You know what I mean? Like that's my biggest problem with the whole international and national conspiracy. But we localized it. We realized that there was a massive story on Wicker Street, Warburton Avenue, and Pine Street, which was the locus, the focus of where Berkowitz lived, where the Carr family lived, and where the Netto family lived. And we discovered a lot of stuff. And since then, we have gone into the stratosphere. Because of that little journey with the Nettos that we took in December, January, we got a lot of professional law enforcement attention. Whereas people before, they thought that we were talking about the Manson and the process and all this weird stuff happening in Untermeyer Park. All of a sudden, we were coming up with something that made sense to professionals. And I started getting emails and calls from former YPD detectives, people who were really who were in the force during those times in the 70s, and they were like, I'm endorsing this, Manny. I like this a lot. It makes a lot of sense. And because of those people came on board, we just went to the stratosphere with information. All of a sudden, we started getting cooperation. People wanted to work with us like crazy. It started to snowball. And I had a partner, Neo, in this, who is very well connected in Yonkers. And the same thing that happened to me for many years started happening to him, where everywhere he went, people started saying to him, hey, you're into the Son of Sam stuff. I got information for you, and this has happened to me for the last 30 years. And I call it riding the psychic wave. And so he ended up with documents that he found for the Son of Sam community. He found them for me, he found them for everybody, and he shared them with everybody. And but we were the people who aired them first exclusively. And 57 pages of newly unearthed documents, which have never been seen by the public before. And they tell a different story, or at the very least, they throw a monkey wrench into the story. And so today
these were what? Were these in evidence and they just never got put forth in the court because he really never had a trial? Is that
he
what
never
happened?
had a trial. He pleaded guilty right away. There was no trial. In fact, that was a strategic error on his part, because the search and seizure of his car was completely illegal.
Through the poisonous tree, he might have gotten the whole thing, and that's why they were quick to say, "Yeah, okay,
he did it. I did, yeah, exactly." And of course, I'm still not. I'm going to be doing a show this Monday on what still bothers me about this case, because People think that I've come to the conclusion that Berkowitz has acted alone, and that's nothing could be further from the truth. I still have a lot of problems with both the official story, and of course, I have a hell of a lot of problems with Maury Terry's official conspiracy theory. And we're trying to find the truth. But these documents really help, and what they are is 57 pages. Some of this stuff was, it seems to all have come from NYPD. The truth is, we're not exactly sure where. We know that this is real because we had the police who originally got this stuff. They got in touch with us and they were like, "How the hell did you get our how'd you get this material?" So we know that it's real, and it's clearly in Berkowitz's handwriting, and they're clearly official documents in there, which we're going to show your audience everything today. But we're not exactly sure. We think that some of this stuff was all NYPD. Was NYPD. We think some of it is Yonkers PD, and we think essentially this is a scrapbook of material that was either some of it pilfered from his apartment by members of law enforcement. Because the story I got on the street was that NYPD took what they needed from his place, and other detectives swooped in and took souvenirs. But the truth is, we really don't know. All we know is that we have this material and it's authentic. Pictures of his apartment that have never been seen before. All the search warrant documents pertaining to the night of his arrest. But the most important thing, in my opinion, and the thing that really throws a monkey wrench, are writings by Berkowitz that were found in his apartment that really paint a different picture of Berkowitz the man, and potentially son of Sam the crimes.
Now, last time we talked, I kind of was just riffing and expounded the theory that it was like a little tiny gang of thugs, and he was the alpha of the group. Am I completely off? Have you found anything more that could substantiate that, completely disprove that, or?
I haven't found anything to substantiate or disprove. The thing about Berkowitz is that we were all sort of taught, I would say, because Maury Terry was, in addition to being an author, he was, truth be told, a cult leader himself. And so he kind of put forth this notion that Berkowitz was a hapless dupe, a victim of the forces around him. And these letters that we're going to see today, and these writings, portray him as something completely different, a very, very disturbed individual who was a psychotic and who was targeting his neighbors and was clearly much more deranged and culpable for these crimes than even I ever thought. So
he's not the schlub.
Correct. And, I really feel bad because in my first few videos, when I was sort of still under the thrall of the ultimate evil, and I was still, truth be told, a member of the Maury cult, I said that publicly in my first video. I said, he was just a schlub. He was kind of a dupe. And I really feel bad about that. And I wonder if maybe that potentially poisoned any chance I ever have of speaking to David Berkowitz.
No, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of manipulator he is, because he's let that image go forth of being a schlub, and now I think he found Jesus or something, which is a typical thing,
allegedly.
So he's obviously has gone forward, and that's kind of what I was pushing back with, is the thought, or we were talking about. He was the dead shot, like not everybody was accurate, but when he was definitively, the ones he claimed were almost perfect shots, like straight to the forehead, all of that.
Directly in the head, exactly.
Versus the other ones that were a car that you think, or somebody else, were the sloppy ones, where everything was kind of crazy on that. And then you mentioned the Nettos or whatever, and I'm going to guess that these letters, I'm going to stick by my theory then. So it sounds like you can't substantiate it, but
I think you're onto something. Yeah, and I think that your whole notion of escalation, I spoke to, I've dubbed the latest period in our video series the law enforcement period. We've been doing great videos with former very, very hard-nosed Yonkers detectives, particularly one in particular by the name of Mike Lorenzo. And the reason why he's so important to us is because his father was a another hard-nosed Yonkers detective, and his father worked the Berkowitz crimes in Yonkers pre Son of Sam arrest, because Berkowitz for months and months was going around his neighborhood terrorizing his neighbors, shooting dogs, throwing Molotov cocktails, sending letters, and so on and so forth. And so
all we need is the confirmation on the bedwetting.
I'm sorry.
All we need is the confirmation on bedwetting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No, I'm not kidding.
No, you're right.
The Trinity, because he did the fire starting. You found
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
And you found the killing of pets. So he did that.
And Lorenzo thinks, I asked him about your escalation, and he thought that there was something to that, that this was something that started on Wicker Street, and it got out of hand. And that really makes a lot more sense if you think about it, especially given all the evidence that we have, and that we're going to put forth, than Berkowitz, a 24-year-old, loner, essentially. Not really. He did have some friends, but he worked 4 to 12 a shift. He lived in a kind of an out of the way place. Maury would have us believe that he was hanging out with Roy Cohn in his Greenwich Connecticut mansion, planning mass murder with high level Satanists. It just absolutely makes no sense socially. In the real world, it would never happen. These people would not trust David Berkowitz from Co-op City in the Bronx with their plans for mass terror for New York City. But the story that has emerged out of Wicker Street actually does make sense. And I think you've helped that in clarifying with your escalation theory, and it does make sense. I mean, it clearly.
I'll do my victory lap now. It show's over.
No, don't do any victory lap. If there's one thing I learned in Son of Sam, is never do a victory lap.
I'm just kidding. All right, so we probably need to dig into it. We got a ton of documents to get through, and
absolutely, and we'll get through Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know you don't need me holding you up and holding up this platform. Everybody's ready to see. So there's your guy.
Correcto. And so this is, of course, and feel free to zoom in, Eric, whenever you want. Nothing really here that is.
Yeah, I don't care about this one.
Exactly. So this is the page 1, and of course, all of these are copies. These are not originals, but these are detective reports, and of course, these are interesting for those people who are interested in this stuff. Of course, most people want to see the writings and the apartment walls, and that's totally totally cool. I get it, but I obsess over police reports now, because my attitude is this is as close to the truth as you're ever going to get. These are police reports. If you're not going to accept these as fact, well, then what are we doing? You know what I mean? So these are some detective reports, and you can continue scrolling down. I'm actually going to be going over these documents in greater detail with some former YPD on one of my shows. But these are all documents pertaining to the search warrant, which is very interesting because, of course, the search warrant was essentially done after the search was conducted. And even the Yonkers judge who signed it was extremely disappointed and disturbed by the way it all went down. Now,
yeah, because if it went to trial, this would have been a disaster.
Exactly. And his name was all over it. Judge, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, so I'll just spell it Cacace. Someone do that. I don't know how to.
Cacace.
Kachach. I'm not quite sure. They're actually a long-standing family in Westchester of law and judges. So, this is all cool. And of course, we could go through it line by line, but I don't want to bore your audience to death. Why don't we? Here we go. Now we're starting to get into the stuff that people really like. And so, of course, these are actual photographs of the walls and the writings that were on his walls. And, these pictures in and of themselves, some of them have been seen, some haven't, but they raise interesting questions because in Maury Terry's book, he writes that the apartment was ransacked just a couple days before the arrest to make him by several people to make himself look insane. And that is backed up by anecdotal evidence that I got 30 years ago, almost in 1993, when I was hanging out with a friend of mine in Yonkers, whose father was the fire chief of Yonkers. And the guy lived about a block away from Untermeyer Park. So we're hanging out yeah, and his father said, hey, you know, I was in Berkowitz's apartment a few days before the arrest, and it was neat as a pin. It was clean, crisp. There was no writings on the walls. But then again, Mike Lorenzo told me that his father in the 70s went on the fire escape and looked in the window of Berkowitz and saw writings all over the walls. So I'm not quite sure when he did that. So the jury is out on that. Regardless,
This is weird what he's saying here, though. Here we go. I have several children, like a little gang, like it.
Right. But you know, Eric, once we start looking at his delusional notes, you're going to be able to put these writings into context. If these letters and writings that we're going to examine in a little while are if he wrote them in that actual mindset and he wasn't just trying to fake something, they're just as delusional as this, and you can't really glean any, you know, factual information from them, in my opinion. But yeah, several children, and of course this is Mr. Williams' hole, right? The hole in the wall.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And what's funny is
that like a tile?
Yeah, it's like a, you know, plaster over cinder block type of thing.
Yeah. So where is this? A bathroom? A shower wall?
No, this is his living room wall.
Oh,
we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a shot in a little while of it from a little further back.
Okay. Somebody's asking what it says. Hi, my name is Mr. Williams, and I live in this hole. I have several children who I'm turning into killers. Wait till they grow up.
Right, exactly. And what's funny is that, you know, there's so much bad information out there. I just recently read a book called Off the Wall, which was written in conjunction with Berkowitz's downstairs neighbor, his direct downstairs neighbor, a gentleman by the name of Craig Glassman, who was part of the arrest team and was a sheriff's deputy in Westchester, and he happened to live under Berkowitz, and Berkowitz terrorized him too, sent him threatening letters, lit an arson fire in front of his wall, and you'll see his name on Berkowitz's wall. In that book, it says that Mr. Williams' hole was an empty void that Berkowitz would throw food in, and the food would rot, and then he'd pick up the food and eat it. I can't see how that's possible here, right? So, you know,
it doesn't look like it's deep, and I mean, this just literally looks like a chipped wall.
Exactly, it's a chipped wall, and so I bring that up to show that in every book about Son of Sam, including The Ultimate Evil, which people think is the gold standard of truth, but in every book there's weird mistakes, distortions, outright lies.
Well, Ultimate Evil, here's an analogy that I think maybe is true. Have you seen the movie Full Metal Jacket?
Mm-hmm.
Full Metal Jacket is the best war movie ever made, followed by a piece of garbage.
Okay.
It's like two halves. Everything in the basic training sequence is brilliantly done. And then afterward, it just is kind of boring and goes off the rails.
Yeah, you're right. That's
Ultimate Evil, when he follows the case tight to what was going on and the cop investigation and all that, that was pretty well done, right?
It was really well done. That's why I always say, you know, and I like to repeat this a million times because my critics, they don't seem to ever hear it when I say it. Maury Terry will go down in history for his two things: his work on the forensics of the shootings, which I think was fantastic, and shows that there's definitely a case to be made for multiple shooters, and as well as his spotlight that something weird was happening in Yonkers. He did not quite get it fully, and that has to do with his personality and the fact that Yonkers PD hated his guts. They thought he was insane, and so they never helped him. And NYPD, truth be told, felt the same way about him. So he never was able to actually make the contacts that we've made and learn the information. And the Netto family turned him away. They wouldn't talk to him after a little while. And I don't know exactly why. I think it had to do with the father and the patriarch. I'm not sure of the story right there. But in either case, yeah, you're absolutely correct. When he didn't go off the rails, that book was a classic. And that's why the book should be about 300 pages shorter than it was. And then I'd have no issues with it at all.
So there you go. Everybody just grab the book and tear the second half apart.
See, and this is what gets me. I mean, I'm looking at this comment here and you know, I'm not trying to like single out Sandra because I don't know her and I have no reason to think that right. But this has to do with her comment.
Sure.
Okay, MK Ultra victim. All right, great. Prove it. We need to start proving these things. We need to start being able to. I mean, we can't just make these assumptions anymore. This is another meme that I've been getting at, Eric, the last couple of months. We need to get conspiracy theory out of true crime. True crime has been infected by conspiracy theory. So now all of a sudden, Berkowitz, the boy from Dreiser Loop in the Bronx, is now all of a sudden a mind-controlled patsy by the U.S. government. Hey, I'm open to it, but we need to actually start getting some proof.
I've never actually heard that about him.
Yeah, that's one of the things going on around.
Ted Kaczynski, I think there's a lot of very real questions about him.
There's a case to be made
because he went to Harvard. They were doing the testing.
Mhm.
He was a brilliant professor. You know,
Absolutely.
absolute genius. There was something there, and there's some interesting things about Jolly West and Charles Manson,
Absolutely,
for example, and what went on in San Francisco, and he
Right.
was in fact working there. Tom O'Neill did a good job on that. So
Mhm.
I have heard on those, and actually on America's Untold Stories, we will be doing a Jolly West episode.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah, I mean, listen, I'm an old school conspiracy head. I've just learned in the last year to separate it out, because let me tell you, when you hang out with cops, like I've been doing the last couple of months, the last thing these guys want to hear is about MK Ultra and you know, mind control experiments and
Chad's got a good point here. Good luck getting it out. It's hard enough to get it out of your local neighborhood.
what did he oh yeah,
conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like the bane of my existence, Chad.
All right, so
all right, let's carry on.
Jump forward here. We got this
So
one's much harder to
is there any way
read,
to
so I
yeah, I
will
was
zoom
gonna
it
say-
in. My neighbors I have no respect for, and I treat like shit. Sincerely, Williams. Who the hell's
Right.
Williams again?
Well, Williams, I'm not quite sure. He just fixated on this character, Mr. Williams, and I have no clue who Mr. Williams is. So this is, my name is Craig Glassman, and I shall never let a soul rest. And interestingly enough, we see a very neat kitchen sink right here. Dishes washed, clean, upright bottles. He's got a hanger coming off of the sink. If you scroll down just a little more.
Oh yeah, so when he's not crazily writing on the walls, he's tidy and does his dishes. Okay,
exactly.
He has range.
So I'm seeing here Zentz writes, so proof Berkowitz didn't work alone. Listen, I have a lot of things that bother me about this case. I'm going to be doing a show this Monday about the things that still bother me. And people think, again, that I've come to the conclusion that Berkowitz acted alone. Nothing can be further from the truth.
I think it's actually been proven he wasn't. In his own words too. I think there was enough to make a very strong, compelling case, including his own statements that I did that one, but not that one. And it's like, well, you're only going to be executed 3 times, one time.
Right.
So
why not?
Generally, a serial killer, especially, is going to take extra credit. They don't like to go halfway and say, no, I only did fill in the blank. They usually are like, who is it? Henry Lee Lucas, who will say, no, I killed them and their sister. And I think the aunt, you think that aunt died of cancer? No, I killed her. They will take credit for anything and everything. They'll read the newspaper and say, yeah, I did that one too. Not say, no, I didn't do that. I did do this. That's unusual.
Yeah, but the only thing I will say as a counter argument to that, and again, for those of you in the audience, I'm not trying to say Berkowitz acted alone, because I don't think he did. But to be fair, he never said anything about multiple shooters until Maury Terry came along. His initial confession was confessing to every one of the crimes. He pleaded guilty to every one of the crimes. He continues to this day to say that he did every one of them. The only time he ever went on record saying that he didn't do them all was when he was being interviewed by Maury Terry.
Oh God, if that's the only case, that was a horrible interview.
Well, Maury Terry's interview of him is a classic case of horrible interview. It's leading the witness. He put everything into Berkowitz's head, and then Berkowitz, being the kind of guy I think who likes to make those around him happy with him and accept him, he just said yeah to everything. Yeah, that's it.
If that's the only thing, then that's garbage.
Right.
I watched the interview; it was complete garbage.
So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but
yeah, it was horrible.
right. I
it
mean,
is-
he confessed to everything. I mean, yeah, maybe he was taking the fall for the group or whatever. I mean, that's still out there. And but no, he did confess to everything, in fact. And it was only when Maury came around that we got the new story. Now, I still think he worked with
one question though, did he
yeah.
confess to everything? Like now, okay. I don't know. Did you see BTK when he confessed?
No.
Okay. Let me just jump on for a second.
Sure.
When BTK confessed, he literally said, I went in at 5 o'clock. I saw her. I pretended I was going to fix the thing or whatever, or I grabbed her, I strangled every single one,
Detailed, right?
very specifically. When did you get there? What were you doing? Did you do it? How did you do it? That is a confession.
Right.
That is actual guilt. Did Berkowitz say, I went, I waited, I laid in wait for fill in the blank person. I saw them in the car. I shot. Boom.
Well, here's
on every single one. Or do you just say, yeah, I did it all? Yeah.
no. He gave details of each crime, apparently to the satisfaction of the cops. However, I will say that there's problems there with that, apparently. And again, I'm only getting this from Maury's book because I haven't actually seen the actual police reports. I have to
Can you
get this.
the confession? I mean, that would be a matter of public record, right?
I would think so, but getting anything from NYPD about this case
Or
is
wouldn't
like,
that be the court? I would say that his guilty plea should have the testimony, right? Should there not be a transcript of the court record when he...
It's amazing that you bring that up because this is something I never thought about, and I don't think a lot of people have thought about, and this is definitely something that we should look into. But in the book, and I'm going to get my girl Ruby on that. Ruby, she's in there. Ruby, get on it. She's my stenographer.
I'm sorry, but I would want to see what...
No.
It's right there. Court record should be there.
So exactly. But in the Ultimate Evil, they do reprint portions of his confession the night of his arrest, where the cops asked him questions, and apparently he gave them enough factual information that to their satisfaction they had found their guy. Now, in those confessions, there's apparently wrong statements, things that he said that the witness said. So the guy said something else, right? And little issues like that, where he was standing and where the tree was, and little details like that.
Witness testimonies contradicted his even being there. Like there would be one witness who saw somebody who definitely looked like Berkowitz elsewhere, and then the killer who looked nothing like him.
Right, and that's all out there, and that's still stuff that we have to deal with for sure. But at the same time, I think we have to be open to possibilities. And I know that this sounds crazy. We have to be open to the possibilities that not every Son of Sam crime was a Son of Sam crime. There were thousands of shootings in the city that year. And let's just say that if I was an intrepid criminal and I wanted to shoot someone, why not hide it within these crimes that were already going on, that were plastered all over the newspaper? Why not shoot someone with a 44 and then just have it be blamed on Son of Sam?
That's the other problem. More than 144. The ballistics didn't line up, right? It was not the same gun for every crime.
We don't know that exactly. Again, a lot of our stuff comes out of Maury's book, which is I want to see. At this point, the only thing good enough for me are the original detective reports, ballistic reports. I want to see the originals.
There you go. So get with your cops and say, how about those ballistic reports? And no, I'm being serious. And totally. I think you need to go to the court. And I'm going to reiterate it again. He pled guilty. There is a case file. That is a matter of public record, and there should be evidence that goes with that.
I'm gonna write this down because listen, I have an army of people working on this stuff for me, and the crowd loves to get involved. So I'm gonna, and you always come up with good stuff. So I'm gonna write that down. Court records, and of course Ruby's listening right now, so I'm sure.
And Ziggy said you may have to FOIA something. Do it.
Yeah, definitely. And so John Carr never went by Wheaties. People just went along with that. So that's the nickname. John, you might be onto something with that, and we're going to show you possible evidence of that a little later. All right, so why don't we carry on?
Back to it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's just more pictures. So this is
Sam Carr on the wall.
Yeah, Sam Carr, killed for Sam Carr. This guy was obsessed with the cars. And so there's, Berkowitz's. And again, my friend's father said that this place was neat as a pin. And truthfully, even though the apartment doesn't look neat as a pin, there's little things there, like that kitchen sink looks neat. It's like that they didn't get to that to destroy that part of it. If indeed,
why did this not rotate? That's annoying.
That's all right. I think.
All right, everybody, turn your head sideways really quickly.
So this is his. This is
hole in
his,
the wall.
Yeah, there's the hole, which is really not a hole. It's just plaster chipped off the wall. There's his TV set with a nice little flower arrangement on top.
There you go.
Kind of odd and unusual. There's his Chinese tapestry, his Asian tapestry on his window. Instead of using blinds, he used that big, thick, heavy blanket. He was 24, totally normal stuff for a 24-year-old.
The case is not open because he's a convicted killer. He's in prison for life. So the case is definitely closed.
Case was closed. The case was closed the night of the arrest.
Essentially, yeah.
The cops announced it. Mayor Beam announced it. Case closed. In fact, the cops were looking at him like, what'd you say that for?
No, Chad, it's not Wave's fault that for whatever reason it was rotated. I have no idea.
Can I sue? That's funny. I like your audience.
Oh, they're a cheeky bunch.
Yeah,
they definitely are.
Cool. All right. Well, so this is an interesting document because this is the transcript of the call between New York PD and Yonkers PD, specifically Wheat Carr, the daughter of Sam Carr, sister of Michael Carr, sister of John Carr, daughter of Francis Carr. She was a police dispatcher in YPD. And, this conversation here is used by a lot of people as evidence that somehow she was involved. Although I can't see that. In fact, I see her helping the police rather than any nefarious activity here. But there's one thing in here that's a little bit messed up that we should talk about. It's keep going. Keep going down. Right here at the bottom, operator 82. Oh my God. He, because we have seen him and he fits the description. Anyway, the end of this is my dog was shot with a .44 caliber bullet. And then NYPD goes, oh, really? Right. So right there, Wheat Carr puts into the head of NYPD that her dog was shot with a .44. And we have all the original documents, the detectives' reports from the dog shooting of Harvey Carr. That was the name of the dog. There's no evidence whatsoever, first of all, that the dog was even shot. I know that sounds crazy. There's zero evidence of it. But there's absolutely no evidence that a .44 caliber was found. We actually spoke to the cops.
And how do you know that it's a .44 caliber? Unless you actually pull out the bullet. I mean, how the hell would you know? You have the gun, or it's okay, that's 45, or
exactly,
or pull out the bullet.
Exactly. And we spoke to the one of the cops who responded. That's what's so great about being in this neighborhood and being hooked up with these with people. We're just one phone call away from the actual participants in this story. And there was a patrolman named Hoyt Rogers. He was one of the two. The other's name was Chris Ragaki. Those were the two patrolmen who worked that sector who responded that morning. And Hoyt Rogers told us straight up that he doesn't remember finding a bullet. And Ragaki told Lorenzo that they might have found something. He couldn't really remember. But it was a big caliber bullet, but it wasn't a .44. It might have been like a .45 from a carbine action automatic rifle or something like that.
We talked about that too. That there's 45. I think there might be .44 caliber rifles. Well, all you gun people, don't kill me.
Well, Berkowitz, I'll tell you what he had, because I have this document here, which we're not covering, but it has all the weapons found in his apartment. And one of those weapons, Eric, was a 45 caliber. Hold on one second. Caliber Commando Mark III carbine. and there was 10 45 caliber 30 round clips and 173 rounds of 45 caliber live ammo found. I mean, this guy had massive amounts. Berkowitz, this is the stuff found in Berkowitz's apartment. He had massive amounts of guns. I mean, it was insane the amount of guns this guy had. And so, yeah, there is a 45 rifle within his, and a carbine, which would have been able to shoot real quick, within his possession. But, you know, this is interesting to me. And this is one of the things I'm going to talk about on my show on Monday. This bothers me. Why was Wheat so sure it was a 44? And, you know, I don't really know the answer to that question.
Unless, I mean, if she knew it was Berkowitz and everything else, and if there was a weird thing going between them, he could have said, "I shot your dog with a 44."
True. And that's the $1 million question, which is, what was the relationship between Berkowitz and the cars? Did he in fact have a relationship? If he did, which one of them did he have a relationship with? I spoke to people who knew Michael Carr, a guy who ran for student association president with him at RIT. He said that Michael Carr was a nice guy. He was like a super partier. He was a hustler type. He wasn't violent. He never talked about Satanism or the devil or any of this stuff. And the only thing we got on Wheat was that she was the most helpful person to the police. She was working for months telling them about David Berkowitz.
And of course, Maury Terry took that as therefore she was manipulating them. And
correct, right? You know, I have a listener by the name of Book Club Warrior 22, who is a great guy. He gives me a lot of counsel. He's become a real trusted and valued advisor to me. And he said, you know, she would have had to be the ice princess with ice water running through her veins if she was involved with these crimes, and then going to the cops and saying Berkowitz did it. You know, to me, I don't see guilty parties working intimately with you know, investigating detectives. I just don't see that happening. But this stuff here is where it starts to get crazy.
All right, so we've got Tuesday, Death Day, Suffering Day,
and this is 12/14/76. That date is actually quite significant, because Maury in The Ultimate Evil has us believe that these letters were all fake, that these letters and writings were all written after May of 77 in order to make Berkowitz look insane. And I have no reason to believe that this is backdated. It could be, but if this date is correct, 12/14/76, well, he's obsessing over Sam Carr 5 months before Maury Terry said that he was supposed to be. And here he is talking about Sam Carr's dog, right? Spill blood. Sam's dog you can scroll down. Sam's dog has been screaming for blood all day today. He is so hungry he won't stop. You can keep going. Kill for Sam Carr. Keep going. There's 2 more pages to this one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, Sam, give us peace. Let us live like humans. Please, Sam, please. My ears hurt. My head hurts. Sam Carr is God, and 316 Warburton Avenue is his kingdom. So clearly obsessing over Sam Carr. The guy has issues with dogs. In this book, in this report over here, this document, which we're not covering today, he had issues with dogs every freaking where he lived. This was his MO. He wasn't putting on an act to look crazy with this whole dog bit. Here's another interesting. In fact, this is a smoking gun. Huh?
December as well.
Right. This is a smoking gun for several reasons. Assuming this date is correct, first of all, this is 2 days before he shoots the dog Rocket at 18 Wicker Street. Okay. He shot that dog and killed that dog on December 24th. And by the way, eyewitnesses to that shooting saw Berkowitz get into a waiting running car in the passenger seat and drive away. So that's evidence that he was working with people as well. Rifle. And the rifle was sticking out of the already open window. But this letter here, or writing, contains phraseology and terminology that we will later find 5 months later in the famous Son of Sam Breslin letter. Bring me the head of a woman to place on our altar. Spill the blood of an innocent one, so that we, in the spirit, shall go to thee and drink her blood. I, the master of the house of 18 Wicker Street, Yonkers, command my slave, David Berkowitz, to kill. I am foul, vile, and wicked. Every murder in Westchester County is under the name of 18 Wicker. All the manure in the street, all the vomitus in the alleyway, and scroll down.
Somebody brought up, go and finish this, and then somebody brought something up.
And all the urine under the stench steps does not equal my vile soul, says the Lord of 18 Wicker Street. Real quick, before we get to that. Urine, vomit, and manure are three of the main things in the beginning of this famous Son of Sam Breslin letter. So here we have Berkowitz using those same terms. According to Maury Terry, Berkowitz didn't write those Son of Sam letters. Well, then why in 1976, 5 months before the letter comes out, is he using urine, manure, and vomit in a letter, right? And in fact, this isn't the last time we're going to see the word vomit.
That's writing is the same. No, those R's are very distinct.
Yeah, we need to do it. We need to do it.
I know some people. I'll see if I can get something.
Yeah, we need to get on
handwriting analysis, because at first it doesn't immediately strike you as looking the same, but if you look at like the R, you can't see it. See the R on master, and if I go up here, that R. Look at the pattern. That R is identical.
Okay.
Let me see, and the M might be different. Let me check the M. He's got an extra trip on that M.
The
He's
M
got it right here on Kingdom. Yeah, that looks the same.
Yeah, it looked the same.
Yonkers, the K, man.
His K's are very distinctive. They look like ITs. They don't look like K's.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that at a glance, if I just, and I'm no expert, it looks the same to me. Or
totally.
Enough.
And his
now
and
this
his
is
writing.
This is cursive.
Correct. His writings are very distinctive, though, his handwriting. And I have a book called Serial Killer, Son of Sam, Son of Hope, which is a collection of his writings and poetry. Some of it actually rather good, Eric, I have to say. This guy could write. He could string words together, unlike what Maury portrayed in the book. He has a very distinctive handwriting, so we're lucky that that in that way it's very easy to tell his handwriting. But there it is again.
But this may not. This is cursive, and very well might not be his.
No, I think that this is his because it looks just like his cursive in the book. I should have had that book handy to put up to the camera. But there it is again. Beloved Papa, father of vomit. Right there's the word. This guy loves using the term vomit, which is a term in the famous Breslin letter, Son of Sam. Hello from the gutters, which are filled with manure, vomit, stale wine. I heard your smelly mother last night. She was outside below my window shouting her blend of obscenities. Sam, you have a terrible mother. Why is she so perverted? I smelled through the window that rancid odor of vomitus. There's vomit again. And immediately I thought, scroll down, of you and wheat. Tell me, Papa God, what fate awaits me? I hope I never have to spend it in your attic again. And that word attic is another tell because that's in the Borelli letter. I look out the attic window watching the world go by. That's that word attic. And the word attic, Eric, was also in the letters to the Netto family. The queen is living in your attic and she brings people down to the basement and rapes them, right? That's what he was right. Whoever was writing those letters to the Nettos. Sam, my lord, I've heard that you've killed again in New Jersey, but fear not, because I haven't told the police about the other Bergen County slaughters. And all the conspiracy theorists, by the way, are using that as as proof that Sam Carr was a murderer. I mean, that's the level of intellect that we're dealing with, where people take that raving maniacal letter and say, oh yeah, Sam Carr was a killer. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I want to bang my head against the wall. So this is an interesting letter because this was written the day of a murder. 3/8/77 was the day that Virginia Voskerichian was killed on the streets of Queens. She was another weird, different MO murder. Berkowitz admits being there. The person who pulled the trigger doesn't sound like it was Berkowitz. It was a short, squat kid with who looked about 16, 17 years old. And but nevertheless, this was dated the morning of the murder. And again, it's all about devil dogs, Wicker Street, the wicked wicker dog at the bottom, which is exactly like Wicked King Wicker from the Breslin letter. And again, this was written 2 months before the Breslin letter. So we're getting a very different picture of Berkowitz from these letters here. It's showing to me that this guy was much more insane than we thought. Clearly obsessed about his neighbors earlier than we thought that he was. Maury had us thinking that this campaign of terror really only started after, again, May of 77. And we're seeing it was way before. This one's a trip.
This actually has him Yep, the D's are the same. Devil Dog,
right?
David Berkowitz,
right. This one is crazy because this one really brings up some questions. So, dear Mayor Beam, my name is David Berkowitz, and I am writing to you with the utmost urgency. There is little time left in the world because demons, Sam Carr, 316 Warburton Avenue, Yonkers, Jack Cassara, 174 Coligny Avenue, New Rochelle, New York, have taken a stronghold in the government. I am a dedicated gladiator who will fight the forces of darkness to the ends of the earth. However, I need your help. We must work together to help the public and warn them of Sam the Terrible, foe of the people. Now, real quick, Sam the Terrible is in the Son of Sam letters. Okay? The famous Son of Sam letters that Berkowitz supposedly didn't write. That term Sam the Terrible is all over those letters. Sam Carr, John Wheat, Jack and Nan Cassara, and Craig Glassman all know each other. According to voices I heard, one of them, a demon, stated that Sam Carr strangled young people and buried them behind Sam's house. These people are just bones now. However, I can hear them calling out my name and beckoning me to join them. They are all bones now, but I can still hear them. Now, that's interesting because in the Borelli letter, the first Son of Sam letter, which was left at the scene of the murder of Alexander Esau and Valentina Suriani on April 17th, 1977, and which was never printed in the newspaper, so he could not have seen it and then copied it to write these letters. That letter, as we're going to see in a little bit, and we should probably go to the Son of Sam letters. I think we've done enough on these. That letter contains the whole thing about in fact, go down. We'll show it to you right now. Keep going. That's the Breslin letter. The Borelli letter is correct. That's where it is right there. Keep going back. This Borelli letter is again. Yeah. Again.
Good Lord.
Keep going. Yeah. The Borelli letter, which was never printed. It's one page down. Scroll down.
Okay.
There we go. That's the beginning. This was never printed in the newspaper. He couldn't have read this and copied it.
Why the Weeman? That's something that bugs me because he's pretty decent on most of it, but the Weeman's weird.
It must be something with demon. That's the only thing I can think about. Remember in that same letter to Mayor Beam, one of them a demon. Demons live here. Demons.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it's an incel.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. Well, it's funny that you say that because he was probably one of the original incels. He talked about how
portmanteau, women and demon into one word, women.
Right, exactly. But check this out. Go to the paragraph right at the bottom of our screen here. Behind our house, some rest, mostly young, raped and slaughtered, their blood drained, just bones now.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't that sound exactly like what we just read in that letter to Mayor Beam?
This also looks like an escalation of the writing we saw earlier, which I kept saying because it's like
great point.
The writing is a little. This is starting to get a little more robust, more manicky looking.
Correct, and also more out there, right? And there's
also all caps too. Like he's shouting. Before he had mixed case, right. So same as when you type, when you go all caps, you're shouting.
Right,
this
right.
is him shouting. Maybe I don't know. It's just.
Or trying to keep his handwriting. But to me, I always thought that he never wrote these letters. I'm convinced that he wrote this one. I think that he wrote this one.
Yeah, the R.
Yeah, the K's
R.
The K's are different, and the K's a big tell, but the M's look the same. The R's look the same. But I'm not an expert. We gotta get Eric, our next show has to be we gotta do this with an expert.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get Michelle to look at
But
it.
I'm smart enough to be able to tell, regardless of the handwriting stuff, and which isn't important to me because someone else could have written this and he could have been in the room, and that goes with the whole theory of him working with other people. But the tells, the phraseology, the just bones now, raped and slaughtered, strangled, and then here the word attic, right? Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic window in the next line. He loves these certain words: attic, terrible, Sam the terrible. And then in the
It's like
Breslin,
his world is composed of these elements, so he's just repeating them.
correct. And it seems like he's fixated on just his neighbors, like I mean, for whatever reason exactly.
I'm sorry, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Women
that
are
was
now known as
good.
Karen.
That's good. Oh, how many people I've called Karen the last 2 years. It's unbelievable.
Oh, poor Karens.
I
The
know.
actual
I
people
would
with the
hate.
name Karen.
I
There.
know. Imagine that.
All
I
right.
thought I had it bad with the last name Grossman. So go up
It
to
is
the Breslin.
interesting. It is interesting hobby with that last name for sure.
Go up to the Breslin letter, the
Oh,
beginning.
Breslin. All right.
Yeah, that's the one with because this one I'm interested to get your take. Now this looks neater, right?
Slightly, but it's still going along. That R might be a little different on that. Oh, nope, there's that from. It looks like that same R.
Okay.
Let me look at the comparison. Which one was written first, Breslin or
The
this?
Borelli. They're out of
Borelli.
order at least. Yeah. So Borelli, this one here, I am deeply.
It's
No, you're
still.
still on Breslin.
I know. I'm just comparing. They both are pretty intense though in comparison to earlier letters.
Right.
The all caps I do think is important.
I think you're onto something, and we have definitely more work to do. Now,
He
the
also
reason
started
why I
killing
love.
by this point, right? I mean, it's like you
Oh
start
yeah,
killing and
well,
then it's all caps. Before that,
correct.
like he's ascending into whatever he is.
He moves to Yonkers in April 76. May 13th, 76 is when the Molotov cocktail gets thrown into the second floor window of 18 Wicker Street. And then a month and a half later is when the first Son of Sam victim occurs. And so, yeah, a classic escalation. And, and then it's like a year before he starts writing these letters or be part of the committee that wrote these letters. But regardless, one of the things that really blew my mind from getting this new trove of documents was just how involved Berkowitz really was. I always thought that this guy, again, was just a hapless victim of forces around him that he couldn't control. And we're seeing that that's not the case. Somebody could say, oh, well, someone had a gun to his head and just made him write these letters. But, who was that person?
They were playing it like he was a patsy who actually did kill a couple, but he was a patsy. And that doesn't always equate. A patsy usually doesn't have the force. So
Right.
kind of an Occam's razor. I mean, like if you say, oh, here's this guy, he's there, he kills the dogs, he does this, the pattern of escalation I keep going over and over about.
Right.
You'd be like, oh yeah, fits like every other freaking killer out there. It lines up nicely. There's no question. It's actually rather pedestrian. I'm not trying to downplay the lives that were taken,
Right.
but it's a normal or common way for them to descend into whatever madness or whatever.
Exactly. And I think that by seeing these letters and allowing us to have much more context into these crimes, we are seeing that Berkowitz was potentially a hell of a lot more culpable. I want to go down because I know we're running out of time. I want to go down to the last page because you mentioned Full Metal Jacket, and this is interesting. This is his last note written in August, right before the arrest. In fact, it might have been written the morning of the arrest.
So last page,
but the last page, yeah, because it really these two passages really speak to me in some weird way.
This is scattering too, like the caps. It was all caps, but then his cursive. Look how spread out. Like I don't know. Now I'm projecting probably like crazy. I'm not trained on this, but it's almost like he's degenerating, like he's separating, like,
Yeah.
reality is stretching, because look at the words are stretched out, the letters. It was much tighter before in the cursive, like just a normal pattern, but this is like, uh, you
You're
know,
right. And look at the and listen to what he's saying too. It's just totally unhinged. Here it comes. The howls have signaled another attack. A gas station on Central Park Avenue. Wait, what's this? No, continual warning barks. It must have been a double
double
hit.
hit.
Yes, a Yonkers policeman's brains have just been splattered all over Midland Avenue. A sniper, obviously. Dirty commies. It's 7:45 and I'm tired and hungry. I wish I could get some shut-eye, but I'm a soldier and soldiers can never stop. However, if I did try and sneak some sleep, I would, and I was caught in the act, I'd probably be shot because the general at 18 Wicker Street wants all his men awake. He never lets us sleep, lest the commies should sneak up on us and cut our throats. So, yeah, I mean, talking about commies, and this is very, very much, he almost reminds me of like somebody in Full Metal Jacket that, had a breakdown.
Yeah.
And also, one of the things that we are not seeing in these letters or any of these writings is the term or the name, the process, the supposed cult that he was working for.
Yeah, that I never. I mean, that's where just reading it to get ahead with you or whatever, I was like, it never felt right. It's like, wait, what?
Right. But you notice what address is all over these letters, which is
he loved to state an address. I don't
Yeah.
know what the hell that dude's about. It's like
18
here.
Wicker Street. And we found 18 Wicker Street as the origin of this story back in December. And we had no idea that these letters and writings existed. And but 4 months later, here we are. All his writings that have just been recently unearthed. The only person he blames are Sam Carr and 18 Wicker Street. So I think that we were really onto something. And personally, sure, I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months in this investigation. We're hoping to start looking at some of the shootings, and there's really not much more we can really do. I think that the main work that we've brought to the world has already kind of been done. But then again, I've said that before. So, hey, you never know.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you get the transcripts of the case, his guilty plea and whatever he said, and then line it up to the police reports to say, he said this, and here's the police report. Here's what was on the scene.
I'm going to do that.
Well, there's this mash, and you go right down the line. And that's kind of a good way to unpack it as well.
Yeah. And I'm all about that now, because I'm thinking about this case as if I'm a detective. And, it's funny because I never thought about being a cop or even thought that was something that I would ever consider doing. And of course, I'm almost 50 years old, so it's not going to happen now. But I'm really regretting it, not only because of the pension. I'd be pensioned right now and sitting in my farm, but I really enjoy this. And in working
don't regret it. I'm telling you that you are doing exactly what you want to, armchair detecting. Being a cop is 90% BS. Go ask the cops you're hanging out with, and I'm sure they will tell you that, yeah, right now you're just doing the fun part, not all the garbage and
also the tragic
and overtime and you whatever. You get the domestic violence calls and all those. It's like, you're getting to cherry pick the one part of the job that's really fun and interesting.
Good point. But
the rest of it would be pretty bad. I think you would be more into like FBI behavioral analysis or something.
That'd be amazing. And of course, it's all too late for me, but that's okay. But hey, if you're 20 years old out there and you're wondering what to do with your life, think about a career in law enforcement, because let me tell you, it's a fun thing. Yeah, here we go. He looks almost 12. I always have gotten this my entire life. I'll be
40, bless you, man. You're gonna be loving it later.
I'll be 49 on May 21st.
And you have all your hair, dude. I mean, so
no, this is a wig. This is a wig.
Okay, good. We got it covered. You and Tim Pool, you put a beanie on it. No.
Yeah, that's what I get accused of, that I wear a wig. That's one of the things that my critics say about me. That's all right.
Oh well, that means that you're loved, right? You can't be successful if there aren't people who are really going after you.
That's true. And it's been weird because, I was just a botanist, horticulturist, gardener. I never envisioned in a million years that this video series would go as far as it had. and therefore I never realized that I'd become a lightning rod within the Son of Sam community. But hey, there it is. I mean, that's something that's other people imposed on me, and hey, I'm just doing my thing out here.
All right. Well, this has been great.
Thank you.
Everybody follow, Manny Grossman, obviously on YouTube. He's also on Locals, and I think it's like Real Crime, True Crime.
Real-time true crime.
Real-time true crime. I can never remember. So always just go to Locals and search Manny Grossman, and it'll pop up if you want to check him out on Locals and help support him as a creator. He's doing a lot of good work, and it's really cheap. It's like $3 a month, $5
Yeah,
a month.
I have $3 memberships because I want it to be something that people don't even have to think about. But meanwhile, if I get enough people, this is what keeps this going, and it's become a full-time job. I cannot do this without financial support, and I'm not getting rich. I'm just barely squeaking by, but it's keeping a roof over my head, and it's also keeping this amazing work going. So that's, big shout out to everybody out there who's supporting.
Well, thank you. And if you're here and this is new to you and you like this kind of thing, please subscribe here. I'd love to have you. And probably have Manny back in another couple months. He kind of checks in every time there's some new stuff about it, and it's fun to have you, man.
Yeah, it's been great, a great partnership, and I really enjoy what you particularly bring to the table, because you tell me things like you did today, the court record, things that I never would have thought about. And I really appreciate that, Eric. And of course, you've been a great help to me behind the scenes, getting me on Locals, helping me with that, hooking me up with that. So it's my pleasure to come here and do these shows, and I really, really enjoy it. And hopefully there'll be another one in the next couple months, like you said.